Welcome, everyone. We'll get started in just a moment. It is nice to see so many people coming in. We're just giving everyone a chance to take their virtual seats. Okay, let's get started. Welcome to Gray Decision Intelligence Demand Trends Monthly Webinar Series, and thank you for joining us. You really should give yourselves a nice pat on the back for attending. In our current higher education landscape, being data informed is vital. My name is Marianne Romans. My Gray DI panelists and I will be available to answer any questions you may have during the webinar. Today, we have a special guest with us as we discuss academic program evaluation and growth for higher education. Each month, we share the latest trends and insights for academic program planning. Allow me to share just a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions, please place them in the Q&A section or at the chat at the bottom of your screen. We'll try to get to as many of them as possible, and we can certainly follow up with you offline if we run out of time. You can also use that chat area for comments and discussion. On Monday, we will send you a link to the slides and the video recording for today. Without further ado, I will hand things off to Bob Atkins, the founder of Gray Decision Intelligence and the best-selling author of Start, Stop, or Grow, a data-informed approach to academic program evaluation and management. Bob?
Thank you very much, Marianne, and welcome everybody. And I will repeat your congratulations and thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we've got a fun-filled hour for you today. I'm your presenter, and I'm the founder here at Gray, as was mentioned. Charlie, if you could introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Hi, everyone. Charlie Anastasi. I am the Vice President of Revenue and Partnerships at Rize Education, and we're going to talk a little bit today about both how we use Gray and some of their AI tools, as well as the AI programs that we have developed using that data.
And I've invited Rize because as I've been putting together a book on growth that may get written someday. And one of the things I think would be really helpful to higher ed is a way of accelerating growth so that you can fix some of the financial problems more quickly. And Rize is one of several what I call accelerators that you can use so that you can get to market and grow faster. Otherwise, when you have to do this yourself, it takes a lot more time. So that's a little bit of intro on why we've included them, and that plus they always have the booth next to us at conferences. So we've gotten to be friends. So what are we doing today? We'll talk a little bit about what a program evaluation system is. Then we'll transition and talk about student demand indicators, employment, and then we'll talk about AI in a couple of ways. One, how you can what's the opportunity? Two, how can you get there quickly? And then three, we'll actually share some stuff we've done with AI to get it. I think the key issue is that it is actually something that can be worked with now. You can do things yourselves. Liberal arts graduates can do effective things with AI. Our current AI expert is a recent anthropology graduate. So it's far more accessible than any technology I can think of recently. I suppose you could say with the exception of the internet, which we're all on these days. But it's a very accessible technology up to a point, and then it gets complicated. So what's a program evaluation system? First of all, it's a key to enabling growth and sustainable financials. Many people want to look at programs and find ways to cut, God bless them. Not really something we spend a lot of time on because there isn't very much money in cutting programs. So we're looking for growth. And how do you do that? We have to understand markets, and I'll go through what data is in markets in just a moment. Markets drive margins. And why do you need to know margins? It's not because you're a for-profit institution, but you need to have enough high-margin programs to subsidize programs that are critical to your mission, but can't stand on their own 2 feet financially. And those cross subsidies are completely appropriate in higher education. And by the way, very common. Academics is the next piece. Is this program actually producing graduates or people dropping out? Are the folks who do graduate passing the relevant tests, for example, nurses passing the NCLEX or an accountant passing the exam for accounting? So academics is part of it. And you need good data on all those things in an easy to access and digest format. You don't want to have to hunt around all over the place to pull that data together. It's very time consuming, lots of room for error, and you'll get a whole lot of pushback on the data that you get because, well, we're dealing with people in academia and they understand what good data is and they're experts, literally from a peer review standpoint, in finding holes in data. So you need it to be thorough, well pulled together, and timely. And finally, you've got mission, and all of this is in the service of your mission. A program that might be good for one school might have a great market and good margins, may be very inappropriate for another school. Well, how do you put all that together and make decisions? Well, I'll tell you first how not to do it. Top down doesn't work in higher ed. Uh, Consultants like, and we're not really a consulting firm anymore, but at one point we did try and make program recommendations and tell schools what to do. It was a long time ago, so the scars have healed, but let's just say that was not a pleasant process, and it was an ineffective process. What you have to do is bring together the right people in a good participative process, and allow them to use their knowledge and expertise and the data to make informed decisions. So that people and process is a critical part of good decision making around academic programs. A new part is the ability to predict the outcome of those decisions. And I'll share with you something that we developed using AI, machine learning specifically, in order to predict the potential size of both new programs as well as the potential of existing programs, so you can find programs that still have room to grow. So that ability to predict is a new thing that is a big help in trying to make good program decisions. Within markets, there are 4 topics that we usually cover: student demand, employment, competition, and degree fit. And we have systems and we have data on all 4 of those dimensions in our system, so you can have that at your fingertips. You want to know how many students took this program, enrolled in this program last year. As you'll see, we keep that data, and you can have that up and looking at it for a program in a few seconds. On the same page, you'll have employment data, competition, and degree fit. So all that's been curated for you, which is really important because this data gets nasty and complicated. And as I'll talk about in a minute, particularly the link between an academic program and an occupation, a job, is a very difficult problem that we've spent literally years working on to create something that is a reasonable representation of how job opportunities line up with academic programs. So let's look at student demand. What's happening out there? How to read this chart. The gray line is 2021. The medium blue line is 2022. The dark blue is 2023, and the light blue is 2024. And what we'd love to see is those lines stacked up, going up from left to right, each year exceeding the prior year. Unfortunately, that's not how the world works. So recently, though, it's been good. We're up 5% in June, and we're up actually 5 of the last 6 months and 10 of the last 11 months. So Google is suggesting that more people are interested in coming back to school, which is a positive. It doesn't prove that they'll show up, but it does suggest that we're looking at least flat and maybe growing enrollment. There comes at a price. The cost for a click on Google has been going up. It's been going up about 9% a year, and June was up. It's been kind of flattish if you look back here in August, September, October, down from the year before. But since then, it's been rising, and we're now up to $15.41 per click. Let me put that in a little bit of context for you. $15.41 does not get you a student. I'm sure all of you realize that. If you wanted to get a sense of what it costs to get a student, imagine that you need 100 or more clicks before you get one person through the pipe. One of those people goes all the way through your pipeline. So that means the cost per student, just for the Google click part of your marketing, might run as much as $1,500. Actually, I shouldn't say as much. It could well be more than that, depending on what your conversion rates are from clicks. So expensive channel, effective channel, but the other issue here is the price is going up. So what are the fastest growing programs according to Google? And the beauty of Google is that it's a bit forward-looking. These are the people who are looking for programs now. They're not actually in school. And we'll turn to the folks who've actually enrolled in a minute. But what we see people being particularly interested in with the mental health crisis, not surprising to see counseling psychology and clinical psychology right at the top of our list. We have 2 other healthcare-related programs, physical therapy and public health. So I guess what this really means is both our minds and our bodies are failing. Certainly true for me, but I hope it's not too widely true. Economics is up there, including quantitative economics and econometrics, up 46%. Part of what you tend to see in economics, especially for STEM-related economics, is a lot of interest from international students who hope to get a STEM degree and then be able to turn that into a 3-year OPT opportunity to work in the United States. So the STEM programs are particularly popular with international students. As we move out into other areas, I'm sorry, we've got accounting here as another quantitative field. And then we got a bunch of business programs, fashion merchandising, library and information science. It's a bit of a stretch to call that business, but advertising and graphic design all up over 30%. So there is growing interest in many programs in higher ed. Think about mental health, physical health, and then business being the other dimension we're seeing here. And behind this, you can always assume that technology is growing. What's actually happening to enrollment? So we went from a future-looking indicator of Google. Now we're talking about enrollment, and that's current as of fall 2024. And that's why we use enrollment data from the National Student Clearinghouse, much, much more current than IPEDS data, which the industry, including us, has relied on in the past. But the most current IPEDS data is from 2022. And if you think about it, in a 4-year college, people pick their majors 3 to 5 years before they graduated, and depending on how fast they went through school. So that data from 2022 really represents what people wanted in 2019 and before. That's starting to feel a little long in the tooth for me in 2024. So that's why we get enrollment data. It's equally comprehensive. All Title IV institutions are in here. And we can see that bachelor's enrollment was declining. Really, we're looking at COVID here in the 2021 range. It didn't really bounce back, went up 2%, and last year it was flat, which is an improvement over declining, but not quite what I would have hoped for in a bounce back from COVID. Master's degree programs fared worse during COVID, but are bouncing back at a better rate, up 4% in 23-24. What programs are growing? Well, at the bachelor's level, we have a heavy focus on STEM in these growing programs: cybersecurity, business analytics, aviation aerotech. I'll come back to that in a second. Mechanical engineering and aerospace engineering. One of the trends I'm seeing pretty consistently now is an interest in aerospace. I don't remember seeing this 3 years ago, ever hit our top 10. And now it's a pretty regular visitor to the top 10 in our data. And you can see it actually came in twice here, one with aerospace engineering and once with aeroscience technology. We have 2 business programs, finance and marketing, and a few other things. Education, elementary teaching, a little bit of healthcare, social work, and registered nursing, rounding out our list. One of the surprises for me here is seeing nursing enrollment so flat. There's so much need for nurses, and you'll see that when we talk about job postings. We've got to find a way to break the gridlock in nursing so that we can educate more students in that field. And there's gridlock at every level, from the accreditor to being able to get clinical space in hospitals, to actually finding instructors who can teach these programs. But it's vitally important. I was looking at job postings the other day, and there are thousands of job postings for every type of nurse, from nurse anesthetist to, I guess they call them candy stripers, the entry-level nurse trainees. The master's level, bit of a different story. Here we see big data really dominating the list. Data analytics or data science, #1 at 36%, and business analytics up 19% as well. A lot of healthcare, clinical, medical, social work, mental health counseling, and registered nursing. All those nurses are going back and getting their masters, I guess. And then we have a couple of other things. Cybersecurity. Keep in mind, cybersecurity used to be a small program growing fast. Now it's a big program, and it's still growing 27% a year at the master's level. Digital communication and multimedia management, up 20%, and marketing management up 18%. By the way, I think in cybersecurity, what we're going to see is a lot of people who got a relatively low-level degree in that or computer science coming back and trying to get a bachelor's or master's in cyber, which increasingly is a requirement in the workplace. So there's an opportunity to upskill folks who, for example, might have an associate in computer science, have been working in cybersecurity at their employer and now want to move up. Coursera, we think about those specialized skills, learning something like cybersecurity and getting a certificate. Many of you have been looking at certificates, and so we tried to come up with a way to track what's going on in the certificate world. So we use Coursera for that. Our clients also have access to summary data about Udemy, so you can see the volume of people coming into the program month over month. And in June, Coursera was way up 114%. And in case you're wondering how big is, that's almost 1.5 million learners who signed up for a program there last month alone. Now, most of those people are going to wash out. Like me, they'll take the one class and stop. It's very inexpensive and easy to sign up, so it's not the same commitment as coming to your college. But still, even if you wash out 99% of them, you're still at hundreds of thousands of students a month signing up and completing. What are they studying? They're studying data at Coursera, data analysis, data visualization, SQL, spreadsheets, data cleansing, deep learning. All of these had over 16 million people sign up last month. Then we've got a handful of other things that we would put more under personal development: Pomodoro technique, meta learning, learning to learn, and test preparation. Now, let me take a moment on Pomodoro technique. Much though I would like to teach people my technique for making tomato sauce, that is not what Pomodoro technique is. It is a way of managing your time where you break it into 25-minute increments with an alarm clock and then take a break for 5 minutes. So that's what Pomodoro is. My apologies to this pasta lovers out there. International student demand is another important vector, and it's up after retreating under really earlier administrations. We got this cleaned up a little bit, and people feel more welcome in the United States, and we're seeing international page views go up 8% year over year in June, and it's been up every month this year. And actually, it really goes back now over 12 months through last July for increases. Where, not surprisingly, India leads our list. I should say that we haven't found any way to get data out of China. If you could see that, it would probably be bigger than India. But you've got some very interesting countries in the rest of the list. I would not have expected Egypt to be in the top 10. We still have Iran. I have no idea how you can get a visa as an Iranian to come to the US and study, but a lot of interest there. And Nigeria has been a pretty persistent presence on this list, as has Ghana recently. So there's some unexpected countries when you have the data about where people are looking for programs from an international perspective. Keep in mind that something like the Google search cost for these students is dramatically lower than the US. You're talking about pennies per click instead of dollars per click. So it can be very inexpensive to actually go in and market in these countries. Of course, then the fun begins. There are rules, and oftentimes you'll have to hire agents to do other things to win internationally. But we have one client who used this data, the combination of countries and programs, and took their international students from 300 to 1,000 in the course of a year or two, just by figuring out where the students are and what they want. And then obviously marketing and recruiting them. And you can see what those students are interested in. 10 fastest growing programs internationally. Top of the list is kinesiology. Number 2 is registered nursing. Number 3 is architecture. And I'll let you wander your way through the list. We see cybersecurity here. Linguistics is a persistent entrant. I don't know why, for what I think of as a pretty niche program, but it's usually in the top 10. Liberal arts, public health, electrical and computer engineering, and here we see aerospace again. Fastest growing master's programs, education general, folks I suppose hoping to come here and teach or return to their home country. International business and trade, digital marketing. I am surprised to see data science in 4th place. I would have expected it to be higher. Marketing management, computer science, information technology, environmental studies, bioengineering, and project management. Now, keep in mind when you look at these two lists, the 10th fastest growing program, interest is growing at over 40% a year. So there's some very fast growing opportunities. If you have these programs, thinking about marketing them internationally could be an effective path to growth, whether it's at the programs at the bachelor's or the master's level. Let's switch over and talk about employment. Just check time. We've got something many of you who've heard before if you've been on my webinars. There's a traditional method of measuring the jobs available for graduates, and it's what we call direct prep. And its primary source is the National Center for Education Statistics. And when I was writing my first book, I looked at this and sort of blinked and said, can this be true? And it is. Right on top of the crosswalk, the National Center for Education Statistics says this crosswalk is not based on empirical data. And it isn't. And that's fine. For years, that was the best you could do. But it's not fine anymore. If you take something like bachelor's in sociology, according to the NCS crosswalk, those folks can only go into 4 occupations: managers, all other, social science research assistants, sociologists, and sociology teachers post-secondary. But this frustrated me. I'm a liberal arts major, so this is very frustrating when people tell you there are no jobs, and you sort of look around at your friends and say, well, I think all my friends got hired. So they must be doing something. So we said, okay, where can we find real data about what people actually do? And we ended up with 2 major sources. One is the US Census American Community Survey, a couple million people who respond and tell them, among many other things, talk about, they tell what their undergraduate degree was in, if any, and what they're doing now and how much money they're making. And that blew up this myth by itself. Then we got something that was as or more detailed and more current. We've got data now on 70 million people, what their degrees were, not just undergraduate, but other degrees as well, and what they're doing, and again, what they're making. And when you look at that, you find out that these folks in sociology don't go into just 10 fields, they go into 776 occupations. So in this kind of work, being within 5%, you're really good. 10% is really good. When I have to multiply by nearly 100 to get from your estimate to reality, that is not good. And what you'll also notice is only one of the 4 fields people are supposed to go into even makes the list of things people actually do when they graduate. I will give you a cautionary note here. Chief executives are probably not what you have in your mental image of a chief executive. This is not people who lead Fortune 500 companies, or by definition, there couldn't be more than 500 jobs. Anybody who is one of the senior team in a company or the owner is classified as a chief executive in occupation. So that could be the owner of a barbershop, a 2-man consulting firm. And so there are lots and lots of chief executives, many more than you would commonly think. And not all of them are, running big companies making lots of money. Now,
Bob, if I could just chime in with one add, this crosswalk, the amount of thoughtfulness that goes into the Gray work has been one of the biggest things I feel like we've gotten out of partnering with Gray, because we were using systems in the past where you would look at job postings or occupation counts, and there would be tens and tens of thousands. And then you'd go and look at what it was, and the code would really not relate to the major very much. And then on the other side, as you just showed, there was tons of things that you were missing. And so for us, this has been truly game changing, because the way that we organize our process is we are pairing content with a variety of disciplines. So you might take AI and you might gear it towards people working on English, sociology, history. And what we're working with the college on is what skills are you amplifying on top of what's already being taught? And if we can figure out what these most common pathways are, we can do our skill pathways from where you are today to what you need to get that job. And so if you're living in a world of 4 occupations, you're going to operate really differently in how you think about that curriculum build, as opposed to, oh, wow, there's actually 700 and maybe I want to focus on mapping towards 15 of them. So this has been a game-changing thing for us, both from a product perspective, but as well as how we thoughtfully work with colleges, because it's just gotten a lot more specific around what you can do.
I think it also speaks to the importance of general education within the curriculum, because truthfully, you don't know what that student's good. They need a very strong core set of skills because they may go off in a direction that nobody anticipated. So thank you, Charlie. I appreciate that. Job postings are up. They've been kind of inching down. You can see this tail end of last year, they were coming down. I felt like we might be looking at a recession, and now they're starting to bounce back up 26%. I do think in other things I've looked at recently, this is not evenly distributed. For better, for worse, The white collar side of this is weak. The blue collar side is quite strong. So one other thing I should say is, from an economic standpoint for the U.S. as a whole, job growth is great. For higher ed, it is not. People tend to go back to school when the unemployment rate rises. There's a very strong correlation between the change in the unemployment rate and the change in enrollment. And unfortunately, that means when unemployment goes down, enrollment goes down. So keep that in mind. I'm, generally cheered up by the fact it's up, but specifically for higher ed, that may pose a challenge for enrollment. By the way, particularly, this tends to hit the two-year colleges more than 4 years. What occupations are growing? Software development, no surprise there. Industrial engineers and mechanical engineers. So as always, tech and engineering is a very large field. Physical therapy is in our top 10. Occupational therapy up there as well. So mental health. So I guess that failing bodies and minds metaphor, I feel like I'm old enough to be able to joke about that, is central right now in our society. And then beyond that, we've got general and operations managers, accountants, and preschool teachers, except special education. What do employers want in terms of skills? And here's the sort of thing that Charlie was referring to, and understanding what skills actually need to be taught out there. And we went and did a cut on liberal arts skills, and I won't walk through them all with you, but notice how prevalent they are. If we look at fastest growing all skills, 29,000 would put research right up there in the top 2. And all of these would be close to, if not in, our top 10. So worth keeping in mind that these, and they're not strictly speaking just liberal arts skills. You can learn like critical thinking in many different fields, but they're very important and very prevalent in job postings. And then from there, you can see much more specific things, whether it's nursing, rehab, physical therapy, vital signs, behavioral health, a whole lot of healthcare related skills in the more specific non-generalist categories. Now let's talk about AI for a minute, and then I'll hand it over to Charlie. I think AI is a once in a generation opportunity. It's the order of magnitude of the internet, and there's a huge need for higher education to teach these skills so that people don't walk out in the workforce essentially what I would call dead on arrival. They just don't have the skills that are now needed that weren't needed as recently as 2 years ago. Huge challenge because we actually don't have the people to teach these courses yet. So how you build it is very tricky, but it's certainly a significant opportunity. You can see people already launching these programs, whether it's 2-year colleges at Chandler Gilbert or 4-year and graduate programs at the University of Texas at Austin. But it's really just beginning. Keep in mind your traditional data sources will not have this information because this really wasn't a program on iPads. There's sort of an AI program classification there, but there's a lot going on here that doesn't necessarily show up. And most of these programs were started since the last iteration of iPad. So it's just not going to be a lot there in terms of completions anytime soon. Now, if we look at what's going on at the graduate level, we've got a dramatic increase in enrollment. Enrollment grew by some 867 students, 57% year over year, and almost all the specific metrics are positive. So you can glance down this list, but completions are up 116%. New enrollments up 800 that's about 50%. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, about 50% year over year. And page views international up 21%. It is popular, and I'm guessing that this will accelerate. The growth will accelerate from here. We tried to take a look. It's a little hard to parse out skills for AI and see growth in the databases that we look at. It's hard to come up with a keyword that doesn't get confounded with something else. We finally found natural language processing as a proxy for interest in AI. And again, very substantial growth. We're up over 100% year to date. Now, lest you think this is far-fetched stuff, and I couldn't blame you for feeling that way, you can actually work with this. Especially many of your faculty have the skills to use AI right now. They may know how to do machine learning. They may be English professors, but they know how to write, they can figure out how to write a prompt. So we took a crack at it to try it. We'd had a lot of our clients. One of the big questions was not just whether it's an attractive program, but how big is it going to be? And so we built a machine learning model, and we have all the data. So we took 100,000 programs, ran it through some fairly sophisticated machine learning models, and we do have somebody who knows how to do this to estimate program size. And we can now tell with about 90% accuracy, distinguish between a program that's going to be large or very large and small or very small. So to make that practical for you all, what that means is it's a kind of insurance. We can't tell you precisely how many students are going to be in that program, though the machine does provide single digit precision estimates. I wouldn't bet your hat that we can tell you between, you have 21 or 22 students enrolled in that program. But I can tell you, this program is unlikely to fail. And that's really important when you're investing the money up front to build a new program. When we did that, we said, well, if we know enrollment, can't we do financials? So we built out a cash flow projection machine that produces 7-year cash flow projections. Once you set up the financial assumptions, and that would take probably an hour of work with somebody in your finance organization, and then you can reuse it generally for multiple programs, you can produce a full cash flow in probably 20 minutes. Something that, as I understand it, most clients might take them several months by the time they get all the data together, and then they find resources in the finance organization, and somebody builds a spreadsheet. We used to do it, and it took us weeks, but we had people working on it full time. And most likely you're going after folks who are going to be doing many other things in addition to your cash flow analysis. So this speeds things up a lot. It also, I believe, makes it significantly more accurate, whether that's having the time to quality check the formulas so we know that there's no fat-fingered errors in the spreadsheet. Well, this isn't done in a spreadsheet, it's coded. That's really important and often a problem with spreadsheets. And second, you get consistent assumptions. And third, that prediction is better than what certainly we could have done a couple of years ago in terms of being able to estimate how big a program is likely to be. The second thing we did was we said, hey, can we make our stuff easier to use? And so this is, again, something you can be doing, but we took all those numbers and we taught, I think it's ChatGPT 3, how to read our program scorecards, take those numbers and create a text report. So our clients, many of whom were a little overwhelmed by our sheet and wanted just a page report they could use, now can get a written text report for a program in about 1.5 minutes. And I'm going to tell you a true story, a plug, but we had a client who was using one of the major consulting firms in the industry, and they had their subscription, and they could give the client a program summary study in 6 weeks. They took that report that takes 6 weeks and compared it to the report that takes 1.5 minutes, and in their view, they were about the same. Now, in my view, I think our data is better than what those other guys have. So I would argue it's better, but I'm probably a tinge biased. But more to the point, AI is here. It's usable now. And there's lots of things you could be doing with it on your campus, and certainly lots of things your students need to learn about it moving forward so that they can be effective in the workplace. And boy, if you had these skills, I think the job market is wide open for you. Let me turn it over to Charlie to talk about how they approach the whole issue of AI.
Perfect. And Bob, do you want me to share my screen here?
Oh, perfect. Yep. My apologies.
All good. And as you're pulling it up, since maybe I'm a little less biased, though I'll acknowledge that we are a client of Gray. For those two things that were just shown, I'm even going to have a quick slide on them later. But for us, the Predict tool, speed is amazing. The accuracy helps me sleep. I think that everyone that works at Rize is conscientious, but spreadsheets are filled with, you made a hard code at a previous iteration, you copy that sheet, and there's just a lot of room for error. And so I sleep a lot better knowing that the analysis that we're doing is running through code and a standardized system. And then as you look at that AI report, one of the things that I really appreciate about the Gray system is the scorecard. Because what I struggle with personally sometimes is you go to a system and you know that your typical program proposal says you need to put in the number of jobs per the BLS, and it gives you some number that has no context to it. It says that employment is projected to grow over the next 10 years at 8%. Is that good? I don't really know. I have no frame for that. And so the scorecard allows us to do more of a ranking and a relative analysis, but that starts to get overwhelming when you have every single last box. And so the fact that now the AI report, which we always are clicking that button now, that is much easier and digestible for our team to take a look at than trying to go box by box. And so if on the first one, it's the accuracy, I would say on the second one, what's been huge is the summation and the speed. It's just been a really great way to digest. So we are huge fans.
This is a general thing for everybody on the phone too. One of the critical issues with AI, the hard one, is not AI, it's data. And you could pick up my data and build the AI report. Probably take you a month or two, the way it did for us. But you got to have the data in the first place. And so as you're looking around your organization or working with clients or talking to students, one of the critical issues is what data have we got? And are we keeping that data in a way where we can use it? Back to you, Charlie.
Well, absolutely. And the place that I want to transition now. So Bob mentioned there is demand out there. You are seeing, whether it's in the graduate, the undergraduate, Google search volume, students are looking for these types of programs. And a challenge that Bob alluded to as he was getting into it is, but how do you actually go operationalize a cutting edge program like this? There's always this conundrum where a program that is cutting edge and is high demand, by definition, is going to be harder to start because it's harder to find the talent in that area. It's harder if you find the talent to recruit that talent and retain it. It's more expensive to find that talent given the private industry opportunities that you're preparing your own students to go find employment within. And it can take such a large amount of time to develop that by the time you're done, the whole field has moved past you. And it's actually time to be refreshing and iterating on that content by the time you've moved it through governance. And so that leads to a lot of risk because you're making big hiring decisions, big capital investments, and spending a lot of time. You really want to make sure that that pays off. The idea of Rize that I'll start with, just to give you a sense of who we are and what we do, is we've developed a model that we call program sharing. We allow a network of colleges to access sets of shared curriculum in specialized areas so that you can add new clusters of courses to your catalog to start new minors, concentrations, majors, general education requirements, even as we talk about AI. And to give you a sense of our size and scale, we have about 100 partners who are using this system to power over 550 different types of programs on their campuses. So a given college will typically work with us across 5 or so subjects. The way the model works, and I'll even steal an analogy that I've heard Bob use on a prior webinar, is you have chocolate cake and brownies. A lot of the ingredients in those two recipes are going to be exactly the same. But to get to the end product of chocolate cake or brownies, you may mix amounts or you may change a little ingredients here and there. And it's a similar framework to think about program development at Rize and how we think about this, which is you already in your catalog, let's say you're looking at something in applied AI. Well, maybe you're already teaching Python programming, and maybe you're already teaching data structures, and maybe you have some courses on ethics, and you have some things around machine learning and data visualization. Well, you've got a really strong base. What you might be missing to launch that new program could be 5 to 7 courses, could be the difference between brownies and chocolate cake by adding in those slightly different ingredients to the overall puzzle. And so what our whole concept here is that you can keep the vast majority of instruction the same on your campus, preserve that existing foundation and experience, but by being willing to collaborate in some of these specialized areas, you can widen the menu that you're offering to your students and do it for much, much reduced cost, time, and risk.
That also means, Charlie, as I understand it, that you keep all the tuition revenue associated with those courses that are part of your regular catalog.
Absolutely right. So as opposed to a revenue share model where you might be giving away X% on the full degree, here your cost structure is a flat subscription fee to have access to that content each year, but then you're only paying for those specific courses that you're sharing. So in a 120 credit degree, if you are sharing on 5 courses, you're going to be paying $500 for each of those 3 credit courses, which is a fraction of the tuition revenue you're generating on that course and only about 10 to 15% of the total degree. Hand raised.
Yes, we have a really quick, but very important question. Referring to early in the presentation,
I
Bob,
got
could you elaborate on cost per click?
Sure. When your ad marketing group places an ad on Google, every time somebody clicks on that ad, Google charges you your credit card. So that's cost per click. And if they follow that click through to your website and they stay, that's all free. But you pay for that first click to get to you.
That
Hopefully.
intro. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Hopefully that answers. Oh, there we go. So that first bit is more of just a prelude to give you a sense for how we work, but I now want to apply it to AI. The benefit of operating in this sort of shared space is what Rize does is we go and we work with a subject matter expert in that discipline. For AI, it happened to be Dr. Mikalainen from UT Austin. And that subject matter expert kind of sits at what are the right learning outcomes, course topics, what should this program drive towards? But we don't just stop at subject matter experts. For every single subject, we bring in curriculum committees. This involves people from both industry and academia so that we really have a sense, not just from one individual, but from different companies that are maybe hiring roles in that field, people who are doing research in that area. What are the types of skills, topics, tools, systems that we should be teaching? Once we get that base, we also have an instructional design team that we work with on staff that is employed by Rize. And their job is to take that content and get into the target outcomes and skills mapping. Where does that come from? Well, you might use a system like Gray and see what are the fastest growing skills. How do those skills tag to different occupations? And so really what we're doing is taking that subject matter expertise and turning that into what are the target outcomes and therefore what are the target learning outcomes within a given program. The goal of all of this at the end of the day is to increase the value of your degree. A very simple statement, but the reason that I want to bring it up is I think that sometimes a lot of us talk about the goal is to grow enrollment. That might be the byproduct here, but that's not the goal. The reason this should work is because you are listening to the market, you're understanding what skills are in demand, you're understanding what students are looking for, and we're going to create something that is more valuable to students. A byproduct of that should be recruiting and retention support as well as outcomes. And for AI in particular, I've had some conversations where colleges have gone, well, I don't know, is it going to help drive enrollment if I'm just weaving AI into different programs? I'm not adding anything that's going to actually drive enrollment. And my answer is absolutely. You start to look at what students are asking for. I just saw a Cengage report get pulled up in Inside Higher Ed, maybe it was yesterday, where 70% of students are disappointed that they weren't taught AI who recently graduated last year. This doesn't need to just be a major. This can go across your entire catalog as you think about being, whether you're liberal arts or not, infusing it in different ways. And so the whole point here is that you have a partner that can allow you to move more quickly, make sure that that's going to stay iterated for you, and bring this out to the market with your students as a growth accelerator, to use Bob's words. One other piece of this that I want to hit on, oftentimes we rush to do the curriculum development, it gets through governance, and then the program kind of sits there, and we don't have the go-to-market plan to actually drive enrollment. And so just worth noting that one of the pieces that we think is really important is providing the enrollment support that is going to come with the curriculum support that you have. So we can really make sure that we are speaking about programs intelligently, that there is a plan to enroll.
Using the right keywords so they show up and so forth. Yeah.
Exactly. And do we have the right plan in terms of list buys all the way down to what type of content are we sending to students who show interest in an inquiry form? This is a little bit of filler, so I'm just going to move ahead. I'm going to talk about the specific ways we've approached AI, because whether or not you'd work with a Rize, I think you're going to find it interesting for how you might go your own way with this. But I just want to hit on this is happening. And to give you a sense of what this unlocks, we have 15 partners. And for the most part, we work with small independent colleges. And so these are the types of institutions that I would say are typically crowded out from this type of innovation, or maybe they are followers rather than leaders. And what we have seen is we have 15 partners using AI, literacy or applied AI, and I'll define those in a second, as of today. And what I find so exciting about that is the creativity with which partners have used this curriculum. General education requirements, minors getting paired with everything from ministry to business, concentrations pairing on top of data science and computer science, artificial intelligence and business as a certificate. There's so many ways you can think about doing this. And a lot of it comes down to aligning to your strengths, your needs. 100 students are signed up for this fall in the sort of the first kind of pilot, call it semester or pioneer semester here. That just shows you how much pent-up demand there is for something like this.
Charlie, when did you launch?
We launched over the summer. It was like late, like May, is when we launched.
So since May, you've got your first 100 students in this.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's been the only other program that does not even compare to this, but had similar results, cybersecurity, which we saw all your data on recently as well. But this by far has moved more quickly than any other program we've seen. I want to hit on really quickly how we actually pick programs. Usually we're relying on something like PES markets from Gray, and we're looking at what is the student demand, what is the competitive intensity, what is the employment profile. We're dumping that into Predict, and we're looking at what is the typical number of conferrals or maturity cohort we can expect out of our type of institution. But what I found interesting here was there just isn't that much data here yet. And so sometimes you have to be forward looking and thinking about what are other demand indicators that might be out there. Things like looking at natural language processing and job postings. And totally honestly, what led us to this opportunity was Gray's 2024 Emerging Program webinar. We had been debating and hemming and hawing around what do we mean when we say AI? What is the right form to do it? And Gray, in January of this year, put together their 5 emerging programs and even used 2 words that we stole, AI literacy and applied AI. And so for us, what we really started to think was, all right, there's 2 programs here that we want to think about when we're going to talk about AI. I'm going to come back to that in a second, but really these 2 program types that we thought about, applied AI, I'm going to oversimplify and say a builder of AI applications, and AI literacy, a user of AI tools, applications, systems at a very sort of high level. Applied AI is the type of program that is going to build on top of computer science, data science. This is where you are looking at things like machine learning, large language models, neural architecture, data visualization, and the really important stuff as well, like navigating ethics and privacy concerns. AI literacy, this is the more non-technical, anyone could sort of utilize this, prompt engineering. When should I use AI? When should I not use AI? When am I maybe taking a sledgehammer to a mosquito with a problem that doesn't need something as compute intensive as AI? How do I refine AI models? How do I measure the quality of what's being spit out at me? And then again, how do I navigate ethics and privacy concerns being really important? I think this one on the right is the one that is going to continue to explode, and even so far has been the one where we have seen the most demand, where there's a lot of anxiety on campuses. I think even we have faculty taking courses this fall as well. Faculty and students saying, I feel like I need to know this if I'm going to graduate prepared going out into the world. A click deeper for you, because I think sometimes AI is the buzzword that is hard to kind of go deeper on. What do you really mean by that? Like, what does it mean to have AI literacy? What does it mean to learn AI? And so I wanted to give you literally an example assignment to give you a sense of the type of stuff that is being taught. So in one of the courses, I think it's the first AI for Everyone course, an example assignment that is being given to a student is you're a consultant and you're advising a financial services company that feels like their client onboarding is outdated, is being left behind. And so the assignment here is create a business proposal for that client, respond to some data privacy concerns, and create a prototype. Actually create a new onboarding tool. For example, maybe they're getting a lot of repeat questions in onboarding. Can that be automated using an LLM? It's really helping students both understand, how do I define these terms? How do I handle some of those data privacy issues? And then can I actually be in the tool and creating with it? Because a lot of what we are hearing from students is it is getting increasingly challenging at the entry level from a jobs perspective. And Bob mentioned the white collar, blue collar divide. And so if you can be the type of employee that is coming to a company and saying, I have engaged with and I know how to use these tools, that really sets you apart from an organization that may be struggling to keep up if you can be some of that infusion of the how to. I also want to hit on, we have an MBA specialization that we created as well. This is a low code program. So if AI literacy is no code, applied AI is code heavy, this kind of sits in the middle. As the program developer mentions, he wants students to have a BS detector if you are going to be a project manager on AI, ML type models and tools. And so there's a little bit of code in there, but it's really more so around knowing when should you apply these tools to business processes? How do you implement these models? And how do you supervise the life cycle of these components? Example assignments. How might I automate or optimize our content creation for marketing? How can I use predictive modeling to forecast sales trends or inform inventory management? How do we implement ethical guidelines? How do I project manage a team of engineers and product managers who may be building these new tools and systems? I just want to recap really quickly, and I'm sort of getting to my end of the spiel here. As you think about your approach to this, I think what we have said is we want multiple on-ramps to this. The non-technical component is something that, again, could be anything from a general education requirement all the way up to something that you are pairing with different majors. Applied AI is going to really sit more in the realm of computer science and data science. And then on the MBA front, I think there's interesting things you can do, not just at the how do you teach machine learning at the master's level, but how are you infusing this into other core degrees to supplement and complement what you're doing. So that is the main thing that I wanted to hit on, is that flexibility that you should be thinking about. If I could finish from an what is the enrollment opportunity here? You have a ton of budding demand. As Bob showed, you have 50% growth, but that was still only 2,000 enrollments. So you still have a relatively small base of enrollments. And so you're even seeing some of that excess demand get pushed out into the MOOCs and alternative learning platforms. And I think there's a huge opportunity for higher ed to step into that supply-demand imbalance. And I want to leave you with two thoughts. The first is, what does it say to a student coming to your doors this year if you don't have anything in AI? If you haven't responded to this paradigm shifting technology? To me, when I think about a crane on a campus, that is a physical representation of progress. It shows students that your institution is moving forward. I think of AI in the catalog like a digital catalog crane. It is a signal to the world that you are keeping up, that you are leading the way, that you are equipping them with the skills that they need to be leaders in an emerging field. And just again, this headline from literally yesterday, 70% of graduates think generative AI should be incorporated into courses. I mean, it's not just an enrollment program piece. This is a almost imperative to have students feeling like they are prepared and equipped. And so I think we just really need to help enable colleges to do this with speed and nimbly, which I think is a lot of what we've been able to unlock for those partners that I mentioned. So that's kind of the main points that I wanted to get through. But Bob, I'll maybe see if there's any questions that you have, questions from the broader audience, or places that you want to weigh in.
Well, this majority of grads really touches a point for me. I was literally the last class in my business school that didn't have to have a computer and didn't have to learn Excel as part of the classroom. And that was a very scary thing. I literally could have graduated from business school and been a dinosaur when I showed up at work the next month. So I think we're doing the same with AI here. This is something people are using in the workforce now. Our sales reps, just as an example, are using AI to draft notes that they send out to our clients. And it's been a wonderful thing because, frankly, they weren't the greatest writers. But once you have the tool, there are no more grammar mistakes. There are no more spelling errors. And by the way, I make a huge ton of spelling errors myself. So it is a here and now thing. It's not future. And what I mean by that is I'm focused on the applied AI side of it. They also use AI to do research. When they are sending an email out to a client, they'll ask AI what's going on at that campus, so it can create a customized opening to the email that will resonate better with the potential client. Not to mention helping the reps figure out which of our services may be more relevant. So it's really not a futures thing. It's a right now need. One of the things I'm trying to figure out, really, Charlie, in addition to course sharing, is there's a desperate need for somebody to teach the teachers. We need sort of an AI boot camp for people who already have a doctorate. You know, they don't need a PhD necessarily because they have one, but they do need the expertise, and we need it really fast. So fast and high quality will be a challenge, and in a field that's potentially so deep. But boy, is it an opportunity? I mean, that's the biggest thing here is, you know, we all talk about the demographic cliff and woe is me, and we can't do this, and we can't do that, and we really are looking at an incredible opportunity for growth. I think students will beat a path, and I also believe that it's going to be a bit of a liability if you can't answer this question on campus of, what are you doing with AI? And can I learn AI at this school? So, you know, we've got the most advanced that I know of. If anybody wants to take a look and see kind of what the state of the art is, I believe it's University of Florida. Now, they had a huge head start. One of their graduates was a founder of the chip manufacturer that's behind all of AI, NVIDIA, I think it is. So yes, with $70 million, you can do more than you can do with 70 cents. But they've embedded it throughout the curriculum. And every course, every discipline has had to think through how we integrate AI. And one of the curious side effects is they had to increase the number of people in their philosophy department so they could teach all the ethics courses on using AI. So it's a wonderfully exciting opportunity, I think.
I think the trainer is a really interesting concept that is one that we're trying to explore and figure out how can we help enable other campuses to do this. Because to go back to your point on philosophy, one of the courses that we are teaching in our sequence is AI ethics. But we want to work with colleges, say, well, maybe you're a Christian institution and you want to develop that in your own lens. So how do we give the tools so they can really do it in their own image?
Well, and it's fascinating because there's actually AI to help with that. But let me come back and just say, you know, what do all these tools enable for a school? And I came up with a tagline, so pardon me for that. But, you know, what can you do with gray AI in a day? And you can literally do work that used to take months in minutes. You can score, rank, and scan 1,500 programs in your specific market while we're talking. And by the way, not talking for an hour, but in a couple minutes. You can select the ones that have high potential and fit for your institution. Not a big bet at this point. You pick them because all you're going to do is look at them. So you don't, you know, you may want others to get a bounce, but you can actually wait a minute for that bounce. And then the next easy thing to do is get a one-page text report. So far, we're about 5 to 10 minutes in. And then you can look at the detailed scorecard to augment your understanding of the report and see exactly what's going on with student demand, employment, and so forth. And that may screen out some of the programs that you initially thought were attractive. For the ones that are left, you can both share those and say, I think this might be a good idea. But before you do that, you may want pro forma financials. So in another 15, 20 minutes per program, you can construct pro forma financials for each program that you've chosen. And as I like to say, and then you can take the rest of the afternoon off because that is not a full day's work. And you just roll the clock back to what we were doing, 5 years ago. And, you know, when we started it, we had to download the IPEDS data for one specific program. Then we had to go, you know, pull data out of BLS and manually do crosswalks and I mean, it took us weeks to do this work for one program. And now what used to take us weeks is really very quick. Literally, we can give a better report in 15 minutes than we could give in 6 weeks 5 years ago. And I think those reports, by the way, will compete with, you know, what you're getting commercially in most cases as well from other folks. Why does that matter? Because it allows you to have well-informed decisions faster, lower the cost of getting to those decisions, and enable your growth. So this is not for fun. This is, you know, for really purposeful software that can help you grow. So that's all I've got today. If you want to learn more, you're welcome to join our masterclass that is available to you now. You can log in and take it. It's also free. It's a lot of material. It's 5 hours of material, so buckle up. And we're also offering some upcoming webinars that you can join also like this one free. And for those of you who want to develop some deeper expertise in program evaluation and management, you're welcome to read the book as well. It's available on Amazon, Start, Stop, or Grow. My first book, and I'm hoping to get another one done, but like most authors, I'm way behind schedule. So I've got to figure out how these people who publish 80 or 100 books in a lifetime do it. Thank you all very much. And I want to thank Charlie for joining us this afternoon. I'm very excited about what they're doing and about you all having the opportunity to have something in your catalog to teach AI in the short term, so you can take advantage of the demand that's out there. Thanks again.
Thank you, Bob.